Whoa. Hey, we're live. Dan, I'm the new DM. A new DM. Newish DM. I've been doing this a while, just not as long as some. Anyway, we've been looking at Playtest 7. So today we're going to look at a little bit of that. Then we're going to get into better quality streaming audio. Because that's actually my actual area of expertise. But we'll get there. Okay. Now, last time I looked at stuff, I finally got through the end of Warlock, and I was very happy with pretty much everything I was seeing. Um, Again, it does make a little bit less sense for Warlocks to pick their patron at level 3, but let's face it, there's ways around that of like, you've made this pact, you don't fully understand it yet. You've made this pact, you know exactly what it is and what it's going to be when you hit level 3, right? Like, easy enough to deal with. Wizard, on the other hand, they've always had their subclass at level 2 for 5e. They have a lot of subclasses. I think Wizards technically have the most subclasses of any class because originally it was every school of magic and then they expanded from there, which made it really hard to expand, and they didn't really need to give Wizards a lot of love because let's face it, if you already have more subclasses than any other class. Now that being said, their subclasses, most people ended up deciding between like 2. So, because people would look at a tier list and say, no, those are the best 2. So, we shall see. I'm just going to fix that so I can, yeah, all right. So, let's see what they've all changed. Now, like I said, first thing I notice, Scholar, no idea what that is. Subclasses at level 3. They have kept the memorize spell. No, maybe that's something else. I'm seeing a lot of changes here just by looking over this chart compared to the previous thing. So this is going to be a little annoying. Playtest, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6. There was one that I barely got through. The wizard changed dramatically, and I think they found out that was way too much. So this is looking, unfortunately, a lot closer to the original, but I'll have to see what spells wizards get, because they changed a few things to be very spell-based. But we'll see. Let's find out. Shall we? Last playtest version. Arcane Recovery returns level 1. Cool. I don't know why they moved that at all. Spell casting now allows you to change a cantrip whenever you finish a long rest, incorporating the functionality of the. So this is really nice. Most classes can change their cantrip whenever they get to like 4, 8, etc., which is good. Having some adjustability of, I picked this cantrip level 1, I'm never using it, or I picked this cantrip level 1 and I've outgrown it. They can change their stuff. Wizards never made sense to me that they always have been locked into their cantrips. They did add that versatility before. Now it looks like I can't remember if in Tasha's they made it quite like this, but yeah, every long rest you can change out a cantrip, so that's cool. Wizard Spellbook is absorbed into the spell casting feature. Take a read, see if, because there were some issues. One of the guys who has been, used to turn into my live streams had some very choice words for how they did this, but in a good way. He figured out, oh, there's a potential to lose your spellbook and never be able to make another one because of how they had this stuff sorted out. So this could be a good decision. Scholar replaces academic at level 2. Expertise in one cool. I like that. Memorize spell is now a feature rather than a spell. Modify and create spell are gone. Cowards. Now, it was overpowered as hell. Like, don't get me wrong. But it was really neat. It was really interesting. I loved the idea. And they just got rid of it? Guys, just tone it down. Make it less gong show and we'd be happy. But instead, again, like they've walked back a lot of what I thought was going to be really cool. Now, I haven't played through the playtest, so maybe people weren't finding it fun. Maybe the feedback was, no, get rid of this. This is too much choice and too much adjustability that it's creating analysis paralysis, right? Sometimes it's nice to walk into the store and just see coffee, and that's what you get, rather than here's the aisle, right? Anyway, that sucks. I wish they would have modified it instead of doing that. Now, again, I cannot stress this enough. Keep this, keep this right here, front and center. I know right now it's saying like, well, we use the player's handbook. Now, if we can keep multi-classing stuff right on the page, I think it'll encourage people to do it more. And with some of the changes that they've made, hopefully multi-classing is more prevalent / more expected in 5e, because I know in 3rd ed in particular, from what I've heard, like I mostly played Pathfinder in terms of 3rd ed-ish kind of stuff, ish. But from what I hear, like, yeah, you were multi-classing pretty much like 95% of the time. So I like the idea of bringing that back a little bit, even if it does mean that as a DM I have to adjust things a little bit. All right, so Arcane Recovery looks exactly the same as was before. Spell casting. Cantrips. Wizard spell list. Please. Please. So here's what I'm reading here is and this is a little bit annoying. In one of my previous videos, I mentioned that one of my favorite things that they've done with this playtest in general is reduced the game down to here's 3 spell lists. If you're an arcane caster, here's the arcane spell list. If you're a divine caster, here's the divine. And if you are a primal caster, here's your primal spell list. It really simplified a lot of things, and it made perfect sense. But now they're going back to here's the wizard spell list. I don't know if this is a compatibility thing, if maybe I'm in the minority. I don't know. But, all right, spellbook. Tiny object that weighs 3 pounds, contains 100 pages. Can be read only by you or someone that's casting Identify. You determine the book's appearance of materials such as or okay, yeah, like they're still saying, hey, you can use your imagination. Who knew? Contains the spells you know. If you don't want to pick them, they pick them for you. Oof. These aren't the worst choices. I would pick differently at level 1, but this isn't the worst. At first I was like, oh, but the main thing, pick something with ritual casting. If you're making a wizard and you're level 1, get something with ritual casting. Trust me. All right, let's continue now that I've been griping a lot already. They They don't even mention what happens if you happen to lose it or have it taken from you. Preparing spells. Wizard feature gives you spells that are always prepared. Changing spells. Ritual caster. Heck, spell casting focus. Yeah, alright. Copying spells into your spell book. You find a spell level 1, you can copy it into your spell book. Replacing your spell book. Haha, they do have it. Okay. Copy a spell from your book into another book. For example, just like copying a new spell into your spell book, but faster and easier since you already know how to cast the spell. Okay, so you can make a new one. Oh. Oh, this kind of makes sense, but this is kind of mean. So if you lose your spell book, you can pretty cheaply copy the spells that you have prepared into the new spell book. But then you have to find everything as start from scratch beyond that. Other than, I'm assuming, spell, like, again, they mentioned the spell features or class feature stuff that gives you spells. I don't know how I feel about that. That's pretty, like, what's the best way to describe this? It makes logical sense, but it sucks. So, um, yeah, this would be a case of knowing that this is a potential. This is a talk to your DM of like, okay, do I need to be keeping a spare spell book? Like, and if they say might be a good idea, do one, even if you never use it. If your wizard's like, or if your DM says, no, don't worry about it. I'm not gonna be mean and make your spellbook disappear. Then, or if they're willing to be a little more lenient on the cost and time that this takes to do. Yeah, because that is like this is cheaper, right? It's 1/5 the price of the spellbook that you start with. But that adds up. And depending on the campaign, if you're running we're not going to be getting a lot of gold in this type campaign. This is horrible. But if you're rolling in it, just make a copy. Wizards get to be poor again. Who knew? Scholar. Choose one of the following in which you have proficiency, and you get expertise in that skill. I do like this, being able to say, hey, I am a history nerd, I am more of a nature spellcaster, I am a religious expert, right? Arcana is like the obvious one. I would almost like to see this scholar level 2, you get Arcana, and then have it happen again later. But it's fine. And the other reason I do like this is because whichever is your area of expertise, pun intended, it'd be kind of weird if like you have an arcane trickster rogue who takes Arcana expertise and ends up having a higher Arcana skill than you because they're a skill monkey, right? This is great. I like this. Now subclass. Level 3 now versus level 2. They lined all of them up. I don't know. I still don't like how streamlined that is. Like, I liked that there were some that were level 1 and there were some that was level 2, most everything else level 3. This is kind of but life goes on. Ability score / feat, memorize spell. Studying your spell for 1 minute, you can expend effort to memorize a spell. Choose one spell level 1 or higher from your spell book that you don't have prepared. You now have the spell prepared until you use this feature to prepare a different spell. Okay. This is very good. Just 100%, this is very good. It takes a minute, so it can't be used in combat. However, it can be used if you weren't expecting combat and you hear, hey, we're going to be heading in to fight somebody, like they're on their way. Okay, give me 1 minute. I need to get Fireball up, right? This is a very versatile spell. It is less necessary, I think. Most of my favorite situational spells, like a lot of my favorite situational spells, are ritual, and wizard is one of the few who can ritual cast spells that they don't have. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was about to. I didn't see that. Wizards are one of the few that don't need it prepared. Most of the time, like a clerics can ritual cast, but generally they need to have the spell prepared. This is actually great. Because, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me thematically that a wizard, right? Again, a cleric, they meditate at the beginning of the day, they prepare for their day, and their god bestows them what they will be able to, like the feats they will be able to do throughout the next 24 hours. Wizards learn from a book, and it takes time. But that's all it should take. So I do like this. Then it jumps to level 18 because, again, they're cowards and took out a bunch of stuff. Signature spells, I think, work exactly the same. Like, did anything else change? So spell mastery returns to 18. In addition, the chosen spell must have a casting time of an action. You always have it prepared. At will cast. Okay. Yeah, I see why they did it. All right, that makes sense. Then signature spell returns level 20. So yeah, spell mastery lets you cast whenever you finish a long rest, you can study your spell book and exchange one of those spells for another eligible spell. Interesting. Yeah, so this lets you choose a level 1 and a level 2 that you can cast for free. Yeah. Which can be really nice, except now they've changed it that it has to be a spell that requires an action, because certain spells, as they mention, Shield would be a big one. Misty Step would be fun, but I could see getting out of hand of like every turn I have bonus action Misty Step for free. But it's a level 18 spellcaster. Who cares? I don't know. I think Shield makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. Signature spells, exactly ish how it used to be, so I don't really want to get into it. Again, long story short, Wizard of the Coast, full of cowards. They were doing a very interesting overhaul of Wizard that made them feel a lot more wizardy and a lot less game mechanic. Where now I think they're back to, you have a spell book and that's what you do. I hope they have maybe subclasses or subclass stuff that lets them replace things, but I guess we'll find out in a second. But overall, that's my response to the changes to their wizard. Now, let's see the subclasses. Like I said, so this section has Abjure, Diviner, Evoker, Illusionist. Uh, Diviner or Diviner and Evoker were like the two. So I'm curious. Abjurer, I think some people took. Illusionists was very rare. And then they put out some other subclasses that just trounced all of them except for like Evoker is like if you want to be a blaster. And Diviner is I want to make my DM hate me, which is why that's what I played. No shade. I love diviners. Anyway, so Abjure is like about protecting yourself, right? Focus on block, banish, or protection. Ending harmful stuff, blah, 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 blah. All right. So this hasn't changed since the player's handbook. It needs some help. Abjuration Savant now adds 1 abjuration spell to your spellbook whenever you gain access to a new level of spells. Yes. Oh. Oh. Okay. So if you aren't in the know here, but the way this used to work, you get a discount on abjuration spells. So when you go to put them in your spellbook, they're faster to write in. As they say, rarely used. So now, every time you gain a spell slot or a new level of spell slots, so you gain level 2 spells, you gain level 3 spells, you add a free abjuration spell, which is nice because as a wizard, I believe wizards get a new spell every level. I think they get to pick a spell every level that is, unless they changed it. I didn't see a change on it. Whenever you gain a level after level 1, add 2 spells of your choice to the spell book. They must be something that you have the level for. So at level all right. So level 1, you get what you start with. Level 2, you add 2 level 1 spells. Level 3, you can add either 1 and 1 or 2 and 0, 0 and 2, whatever. But then you also get an abjuration spell as well every time you gain a new level of spell slots, which I believe would be at level 3. Or is this a level 3 class feature? Yeah. So you get 2 abjuration spells whenever you gain a new level spell slot. Or a new. Okay, I see what they're doing. I'm reading the changes and I'm reading the actual text. So let's get into the text here. But yeah, so at level 3, you get 2 abjuration spells added to your list on top of the other 2 spells you get from hitting that level. That's handy. And the next time you get spell slots in this class, which is important, or a new level of, you can add another abjuration spell. So that's sweet. That's fine. Way better than what used to be there. I'm okay with that. Arcane Ward now requires you to spend a spell slot to create it. I'm going to keep ignoring that call. They're trying to sell me stuff. Abjuration, Arcane Ward. Requires you to spend a spell slot to create it and allows you to expend a spell slot without casting a spell to restore it. Spellbreaker reprove. Okay. So Arcane Ward, you can now you can weave a magic around yourself for protection. You cast an abjuration spell with a spell slot. You can simultaneously use a strand of the spell's magic to create a magical ward on yourself that lasts until you finish a long rest. The ward has a hit point maximum equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. When you take damage, the ward takes the damage instead. If this damage reduces the ward to 0 hit points, you take the remaining damage. While the ward has 0 hit points, it can't absorb damage, but its magic remains, which comes up later, I believe. Whenever you cast an abjuration spell with a spell slot, I think that's the important side of this here. I think there was some people who figured out how to basically they were using mage armor from warlock invocations where you could cast a spell without expending a spell slot, and they just doing it over and over and over again to build this ward up to like a ridiculous amount. But now you can't do that anymore. Now the ward it has a hit point maximum. That's important as well. Equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. Whenever you take damage, whenever you cast with a spell slot, the ward regains a number of hit points equal to twice the level of the spell slot. So, yeah, what people were doing is outside of combat, mage armor, mage armor, mage armor, mage armor, mage armor, mage armor. I take 30 seconds to cast mage armor 5 times and build my ward back up. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. I'm fine with that. Yeah, like all this does is break a broken exploit. So everything else looks pretty much the same. All right. Protected ward. When a creature you can see within their you can use your reaction to use your ward to absorb that damage. And the warded takes the remainder if it's more. Now, what I do like about this ward is it's not temporary hit points. It is a shield, like a bubble. So that's actually pretty nice. Always have Dispel Magic prepared, and you can cast it as a bonus action. You can add your proficiency bonus to its ability check. The only thing I would change, I would put in here that you can cast it even if you've cast another spell. Let this be one of the few instances where somebody can cast 2 spells in one turn. That's all I would change there. Yeah. At higher levels, I might even say put. Well, I don't know if I can't even remember if counterspell is abjure. But anyway, I was gonna say maybe at higher levels allow for counterspell to follow suit, but who knows? Spell resistance. Resistance against the damage of spells and saving throws against spells. Advantage. That's sweet. Yeah. Cool. No, I don't mind it. Again, all they've done is they've made this way better. Gotten rid of something almost nobody used. They've nerfed a somewhat what I would call an exploit. So I'm fine with that. And then Spellbreakers is pretty sweet. So it's fine. I don't know if I would play an Abjurer after reading that though. Diviner or Diviner. I think it's Diviner in this case, but I don't care. Oh, it would be Divin, yeah. Diviner, because it's divination, not divination. Fixed it. All right. Divination Savant now adds 1 spell whenever you gain access to a new spell slot and replaces the rarely used discount. Same thing. Good. The only other thing they changed, Third Eye is now a bonus action rather than an action. And it allows you to cast See Invisible spell instead of having to choose between See Invisible or seeing into the ethereal plane. Finally, the incapacitated condition no longer shuts the feature down. Okay. So the only thing they changed is this is one streamline I can get behind. So that's going to be the case with all of them. I'm going to ignore it on the next ones, but yeah. So that's the same idea where you get 2 spells at level 3, and then every time you gain a new spell slot in this class, important, you get 2 divination spells for free. Cool. Portent is the same. Divination is the same. Third Eye can increase the powers of your perception. The bonus action, that used to be an action, so this might be useful in combat where I don't think you would normally use it before. Use one of the following benefits which last until you start a short rest. You can't use this feature until you have a longer short rest. Dark Vision. Okay. It's you can't cast on somebody else. Greater Comprehension. You can read any language. See Invisibility. You can cast See Invisibility without. And then they have a note where the invisible condition has changed a bit. Condition contained an unintentional loophole in some circumstances that allowed an invisible creature to benefit from the condition even when someone could see the creature. Alright, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, the only thing they changed was Third Eye, and it looks like it's, other than it's a bonus action. I think what they're trying to do is make it that you might use it in combat, right? So I'm going to use my my Third Eye to see invisibility because we're being assaulted by creatures that are invisible, and it's actually worth casting. Easy in combat, because see invisible would be an action otherwise, so it helps my action economy to wait. But if I've already used Dark Vision, then I can't. But yeah, that's all well and good. All right, very little changes. Evoker. Same thing as everybody else. Okay. Potent Cantrip moves to level 3. This change gives the Evoker a feature that can be enjoyed regularly. So Potent Cantrip. That's when they take half damage if you miss. But it used to be a higher level, I think. Sculpt spells moves to level 6. Few spells at lower levels benefit from it. Level 6, Okay, so sculpt spells move to level 6. It must have been lower, and like you wouldn't use it until higher level. But they didn't really change anything. All right, Illusionist. This one needed some help. So, same thing as everybody else. Malleable illusion is now a bonus action rather than action. Illusory self can be reused by expending a spell slot level 2 or higher. Illusory reality has been clarified. All right, so that's the same. Malleable illusions. After you cast an illusion spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can use a bonus action to change the nature of the illusion. Okay, it's just a bonus action instead of an action. I mean, I guess that's fine. Again, makes it a bit more worthwhile in combat, but I'm not using that very often in combat to start with, so who knows? Okay. Illusory self. When a creature makes an attack roll against you, you can use your reaction to interpose an illusory duplicate between the attacker and yourself. The attack automatically misses you. So it's when they make an attack roll. So unlike shield, you can't. So level 1 spell shield, I believe, right? Yeah, level 1 spell shield gives you a bonus of 5. Excuse me. And is a reaction. Now, oh, they don't. Did they not actually say? Oh. Really? Oh, there we go. Casting time. 1 reaction which you make when you are hit by an attack or targeted by magic missile. Okay, so if you were hit by an attack, you can cast shield. I should know this. I played a wizard, but I interpreted that differently. I thought it was when you I thought it was the classic. You can use it if my brain if you don't know if it would have hit yet, like if you know what they rolled but don't know the result yet or something like that. It's one of those annoying things. Anyway, so this is when they make an attack roll against you. So it costs a level 2 spell to cause them to miss automatically. I think, especially at higher levels, that is very useful, and a good use of level 2 spell slots, I would assume. To like, nope, that attack against me just doesn't hit. And it is specifically an attack roll against you. So, yeah, I don't know. Being able to use it more often, though, cool. Yeah, if it used to be like, yeah, I could do this once. Okay. User reality has been clarified, noting that it can't deal damage or give any conditions. When you cast an illusion spell with a spell slot, you can choose one inanimate, non-magical option that is part of the illusion and make it that real object. You can do this on your turn as a bonus action while the spell's ongoing. It remains real for 1 minute, for example. You can create an illusion of a bridge over a chasm and make it real long enough for your allies to cross. Can't deal damage or give conditions. Cool. Illusion spell with a spell slot. So you have to use. You can't use this on minor illusion. Which I think it's probably would be overkill, but yeah, nothing in this makes me want to play an illusion wizard. Yeah. So long story long. Again, Wizards of the Coast. These are all so milquetoast. It's like the most minor changes. The only thing you really changed is some cantrip versatility stuff, and that you can change out. Choose one spell level 1 or higher from your spell book that you don't have prepared. Yeah, this is it. This is the big change, which is good. I like this boost, right? Being able to switch out a spell at will, as many times as you want per day. Right? It basically gives you one extra prepared spell that you can change out, because when you do it again, you forget that spell. So you can't just change out your whole spell book every time or anything like that, but it gives you an extra known spell per day too, right? Always do this first thing in the morning. Yeah, I don't know. None of this makes me want to play a wizard. None of it. I'd still play a wizard. Like, it's back to a regular old 5e wizard. All of the cool random stuff you guys added, gone. So it's back to just being a good class, but without anything really new, right? Which I guess they're not trying to reinvent the wheel as much as they were originally. Easy. So, yeah. Okay, so just finished looking through Wizard. I'm disappointed in it, but let's take a look at spells and feats. I'm not going to read through all of them because I don't care that much. Okay, Arcane Divine and Primalist are gone. Damn it, guys. I hate it. Arcane Eruption now requires a dex save rather than a con save. I guess it kind of makes sense because you're shooting something at them to dodge, but it's too bad because dex is, well, no, con is pretty save heavy too. Depends on the type of creatures. Okay. Counterspell. This did change it quite a bit by the look of it. Now requires the target to make a saving throw instead of requiring the caster to make an ability check. The spell's previous design failed to account for the capabilities of the target, which is rectified in the new design. The new design also specifies that the counterspell must be cast with spell components, and if the counterspell used a spell slot, the slot isn't okay, what? All right. Thankfully, it's right here. Okay, cast time, reaction. When somebody okay, when you see a creature within 60 feet of yourself casting a spell with verbal, somatic, or material components. Is that how it was phrased before? Not that this matters too much. You can see within 60 feet of you casting a spell. This is a good clarification. I actually like this. So you have to be able to see them. You can't just hear them casting a spell. But they have to be using verbal, somatic, or material components. So things like subtle spell that can remove certain requirements. This fixes that. But if somebody uses subtle spell and it gets rid of the somatic, or sorry, the verbal, but it still needs material, you can still see them doing it. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure you still need the material for subtle spell stuff. Anyway, that's a good clarification. I like that. Attempt to interrupt a creature in the process of casting a spell. A creature must make a Constitution saving throw. Interesting choice, but I understand it, and we'll get to that in a second. On a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect, and the action, bonus action, or reaction used to cast is wasted. If the spell was cast with a spell slot, the slot isn't expended. Oh, okay. I had this backwards. I thought it was saying if your counterspell fails, you keep the slot. What this is saying, on a failed save, the spell dissipates with no effect. And the action, bonus action. Why is action lowercase, but bonus action is uppercase? Guys, formatting, okay? Make sure your book is better than this. If the spell was cast with a spell slot, the slot isn't expended. So if you prevent them from casting the spell, they get to keep it. I like this for players. That's what this is here for. This isn't here to help DMs. This is, I'm a DM. I counterspell your 8th level spell. Like you use something super duper high up. You can only cast once per day. Crap. No, you can try cast it again next turn. I like that. I also like that from a DM perspective of like, okay, you foiled my plan this turn, but next turn, oh, something's coming because I can still try it again. Now, a Constitution saving throw, I'm assuming against your spellcasting modifier, not just a general con, is a weird choice. You would think it would be their spellcasting modifier versus yours kind of thing. But I think this is a concentration analog is what they're trying to do here. I don't know how I feel about this. I love the clarification. This is important. I think this aspect of it is good, both from a player and just a fun perspective, right? If I'm a DM and let's face it, this creature has a really cool spell I want to use, or this character. Oh, and they counterspelled it? Well, I guess this character happens to have 2 levels of that spell slot, or 2 of that spell slot, right? Because it's a DM. Sometimes you want to make sure certain things can happen because they're fun. Not just for you, right? This is going to be fun for the players when I use this spell, blah, blah, blah. The other thing I'd be curious about, here's a ruling question for the DMs out there. I go to cast a spell that takes an action. It gets counterspelled. So I've not used that spell slot. Can I now cast a spell as a bonus action as part of my turn because I did not actually get to cast my initial spell? I think you could. That's how I would rule it, at least. I'd have to see, though. So, yeah, I'm at odds about this being just a con save. I think that's not a bad choice because wizards tend not to have the highest con. So it makes counterspell effective, shall we say. But, yeah. And it is interesting. It doesn't just work. Because that was always the thing, is like, I cast a level 2 spell, you counterspell it, that level 2 spell's gone. Now I get a saving throw every time. But everybody does. So players who are getting counterspelled by like a lich, and Yeah, I think I'm for this change actually. Yeah. Eldritch Blast and Hex Revert. Hex was a problem. I'm glad they did that. Eldritch Blast. I don't know. Although they did make it more versatile for blasters in general, with some of the changes that minor changes they did to Warlock, with reverting back. So I'm glad they moved Hex back because that wasn't working. And then Sorceress Burst is D8 rather than D6. Okay, so spell wise, fine. Hate it. For it. Kind of for it. Jump is now a bonus action. Oh, it can be approved. Okay, maybe I need to read that. Maybe it'll be a useful spell. And then, okay, whatever. So let's take a look at jump and let's move on, because we can tell how bored I am of these cowards from Wizards of the Coast reverting a bunch of this stuff back. But at the same time, I'm fine with it. I just need more coffee. That was just shade. So jump. Each of its turns until the spell ends, that creature can jump up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement. Oh, okay. That's cool. That's fine. So they can only jump 30 feet, quote unquote, only jump. And they can only do it once, but then they still have movement speed. How the hell did this spell used to work? I've never actually used it because it was always meh. Yeah, it triples the distance of a creature's jump. What? Right? I don't think anybody ever really used this spell, because every time you used it, you'd have to get out the calculator and figure out, okay, what's my actual thing, and like what's my strength or dex, and what's this is, I don't know if I would say it's more useful. It's more user friendly, and I think those like jumping boots and stuff, like this basically adds an extra 30 feet of well, technically actually 20 feet of movement every time. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, treat it like it's adding an extra 20 feet of movement, but also has versatility in other situations. That's cool. That's fine. Okay. Feats. Now, DM can use bonus feats as a form of advancement after characters reach level 20 to provide greater power. To characters who have no more levels to gain. So it seems like they got rid of some of those like super high powered level 20 feats. Gain cowards. you you took everything and went squish and then added some stuff at the top, and we're like, okay, no, we're gonna move it back and then get rid of the stuff we added. Anyway, players can also select feats from previous installments of the 2022 Unearthed Arcana. Has to meet prerequisites. Oh no, maybe they are keeping the epic boon. The only thing I would say, they may have to clarify, epic boon feats should be probably one per character max, because those will get out of control very quickly. But I do like this idea of like, hey, you're doing high level play, your characters are maxed out, let's still eke them up a bit without going too crazy. including ability score improvement. Because it is a feat, people can start maxing out their stats. If you were at least level 19, the maximum becomes 22. So yeah, again, you can start like I'm gonna take the bonus feat at level 20 or level 21, I guess, and have 22 strength or something like that, right? That's kind of cool. Now, this is important. This actually makes the ability score improvement as a feat make sense, because they're adding these bonus feats as like somewhat canon after. And then it requires level 4, so you can't take variant human and start with 20 intelligence or something, because you well, you can if you roll a bunch of 6s if you're rolling, but yeah, repeatable, you can take it more than once. Weapon. Oh, is that the only? Is that it? That's the only change they did? Is like, yeah, epic boon feats are kind of back, but they're DM discretion. But and then here's one feat. Well, that was quick. I'm glad I didn't start a new section for that. Weapons. This contains playtest versions of weapons in the 24. Here are, you'll find the weapon table revised. So the mastery properties, heavy property redesigned. I remember taking a look at that already, but we'll revisit. Flex property is gone. Push property now works on any creature that is large or smaller, and it requires you to push the target straight away from you. Sap now works with weapons that have versatile property or no property. Interesting. Quarterstaff now has the topple property. Spear now has the sap. Longsword now has the sap. Warhammer, push. Warpick, sap. All right, so they just changed what has what. Got rid of flex. They simplified push, and now heavy has changed. So heavy, I believe needs dex of at least 13, strength of at least 13. Or you have disadvantage on the rolls. All well and good. This is largely likely so that rogues can't use a bunch of heavy weapons or something like that. That'd be my assumption. Yeah. So everything else basically stayed the same there. Rules glossary. The section on death saving throws has been removed. Why? Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any other changes. All right, summary time. It's fine. This is more of what they kind of said they were going to do initially. Everything has been streamlined a little bit, has been tweaked. This is more a errata, I think is the term, like the minor changes to rules rather than a complete revamp. Like, it's a good thing they're not calling this 6th edition, because this would be garbage. This being a minor change to 5th ed isn't a problem, but these changes are minor enough. Here's what I want. Put out your 2024 book. Cool. I'm fine with that. Ideally with a updated monster manual and an updated DM's guide. That'd be preferable. Like, I'm more interested in what they changed in the DM's guide than I am the class stuff now, because everything's been rolled back so much. Like, this is 5th ed. So give us a small book that we can buy as somebody who already owns the 2014 book. Right? Give us something, like, we'll pay money for it to have it on hand, right? And it show a sign of good faith. Or do a even better, put it out as a PDF that here are the changes. Because all of the major overhauls are gone, right? Warlock's back to being its OG self with some minor tweaks, some good tweaks. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like the changes they've made. I like the subclass changes. Wizard is back to just being a 5e wizard with the subclass stuff tweaked a little bit, and then one change in its abilities. Right? Like, you've kept the weapon proficiency stuff, or weapon mastery stuff. I think that's cool. And yeah, it adds some extra flavor. I would almost be more, I kind of just wish you'd rip off Baldur's Gate 3 and just take what they did with it, of like, this weapon has pommel strike and cleave. You can do it once per short rest or something like that, and then have that, if you're a fighter, you can do them once, or fighters can do them once per short rest. Everybody else can do them once per long rest or something like that. I think that would almost be easier. But then as a DM, you have to decide per weapon. They have to then type it out per weapon versus just saying, this one has cleave. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's fine. But yeah, this isn't a big overhaul. This doesn't need a new book for those who have the previous book. It will feel like a waste of money for all of the people who have it. Give us either a PDF that we can just download that has all of the changes in it, and we can just keep track of them ourselves, or sell it as a thin book for like $20-$30 that people can grab. Like, still wouldn't be worth it in my opinion, but we can have it handy so that if we want to use the 2024 rules, we have them in a separate entity. Because there's just not enough here. There's just not enough here to warrant a new book. I liked the complete overhaul, crazy redesign thing you were trying, but you're not doing that anymore. If you're not doing that anymore, I don't think this is worth people's money. Sorry. Well, I'm not. It's just so insignificant. There's a few changes to subclasses that make me want to, maybe if I happen to play that class, play that subclass. That's about it. But again, that could be just done with a PDF. Like, this isn't warranting a full new book. Unless somebody doesn't own the player's handbook yet. Then I'm perfectly fine, whatever. You don't own the player's handbook yet? Here's the new one. Excuse me. Right? There you go. Now you don't have to go and get the supplemental material. But this just needs a piece of supplemental material. Just like I've said in the past, I think with the way power creep has kind of worked, especially since Tosh's, instead of reselling Curse of Strahd, give DMs a updated stat block set of this creature here has had changes to its stats to accommodate the new class features and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm less inclined to try playing this playtest, because to me this just feels like 5e vanilla with like a couple minor changes. But maybe that's what people wanted. Grr. All right. I want to talk about some other stuff, because I want to talk about stuff that I know a bit better. Start recording. Huh. Bring up Sweetwater. Okay. I recently watched the good old new Critical Role live event, and it was wild. Not only was the actual like broadcast pretty fun to watch, the amount of people, the size of the venue was outlandish. Now, it is tricky. I do not envy whoever had to do the audio for that many people listening to a spoken event in that kind of setting. So there were feedback issues occasionally. It is the unfortunate nature that giving Matt the power to control the backing tracks, like the my brain. They gave Matt the power to control the music in the background, and it was often too loud, especially for the broadcast. It might have been fine in the venue, but somebody should have set it up multi-channel with 2 zones so that they could adjust. So that got me thinking. I've been meaning to do this for a while. Now, if you didn't know, I have another channel called Max SPL Videos, where I talk about audio gear and recording and guitar and that kind of stuff. Mostly live sound DJing as of late, because I've been getting more into that in my business, but I know a lot about audio. Now, as you may have noticed, I have pretty good sounding audio on this channel because I know how to do that. But video is where I start to lack. I'm using just my webcam again because I have a DSLR somewhere here. It was fine, but I took it apart to use it for a different event and then never bothered putting it back. And I have this on my desk already, and I don't care. On top of that, on my DSLR, one of the problems I kept having was syncing live my voice to it was just giving me a lot of grief. So I just moved back to that. But my audio has always been pretty good. There was one stream where I had my gain cranked up a little too high, and I wasn't monitoring on headphones. I can't hear myself right now. I'm just talking in the room. So how do we get better streaming audio? Oh, I'm gonna mute that just so I don't get any. Better have the best best sound quality I can while I'm looking at this. So you're doing a game and you're going to stream it. Now, again, extra complications when you're running a live event like they were, but let's just talk as if you are, like me, an unknown streamer who just wants to get audio to the world. Now, video-wise, again, I'm not as picky about video. Most of your listeners and viewers, it's going to be the same thing. Yeah, Critical Role having really cool maps and rear projection backgrounds and that kind of stuff. Dimension 20 has hugely stepped up their rear projection stuff in some of their latest things. I don't know if it's because they were looking at what they were doing at Critical Role and was like, oh, we can do that too. We've got a pre-built set that works for that. Why aren't we doing this more? Or if that's just as they progress, they figured instead of just color, why don't we try this? Either way, it looks great. What all these companies and stuff are doing. However, it's the audio, right? One of the reasons I can't go back and watch gleefully early episodes of Critical Role is the audio is terrible. It just is. I don't care about the video. I can have it on this screen, and all I need to do is be able to see their faces react a little bit when something cool happens. That's all I'm watching the video feed for. If they still had paper maps and a cardboard background with stones drawn on it, I'd be fine. It's cool that they have all the other bells and whistles and toys. I don't think it takes away from anything. I think it can add things for certain people, as well as, the cast and crew. Yeah, let them have their fun. I know some people were like complaining, like, oh, it doesn't feel the same as when they were using pen and paper. No, go and watch it. Go watch an early episode and watch a later episode. And other than the natural flow of hey, we're streaming, has really kicked into high gear, where like they are largely ignoring the cameras. Compared to when they first started, like you could tell they were aware that people were watching. Now they just seem to be smoother. I digress. You're not them. You're not using, I mean, don't spend thousands of dollars getting good maps and all this stuff out and blah, 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 blah. Now, why do I have Sweetwater open? Because I want to talk about audio equipment. If you have a local music store, I recommend them. But I'm going to use Sweetwater because they are available just across the U.S. I'm in Canada, but this will show U.S. pricing to you all. But I will use some stuff outside of this because there's a few brands and items and stuff that I might recommend. Now, the first thing you need is to get sound into your computer. Now, I have right now an audio interface. Like a lot of people use the Solo II, I think it is. Oh, no, that is a Schecter guitar. Can I spell? Oh, I'm just overdoing my spelling. A lot of people get something like this. Now these things are great for what I'm doing right now, right? I have an old Steinberg interface that I got for like $50 and has 2 mic inputs and a balance knob and blah blah blah, and then I do in the box, so in my computer, adjustments for other aspects of the audio. Something like this can work really well if that's all you're doing, but you're now working with a group. So if you have multiple people, that's where you need a bigger interface. So some will go out and get something like this. Again, this thing is awesome. It has multiple inputs. They're mostly on the back, right? 3 through 8 with 1 and 2 on the front. And then you would run that into, now, here's where you have to make a decision. Are you going to live stream or are you recording for YouTube and then editing and then sending it out? If you're recording for YouTube, get something like this, right? Now I use Focusrite because they are common. People have seen these a lot. I am a Focusrite dealer, so take my advice with a grain of salt. There are other options out there, but these ones I know are very popular and I know are around, right? You can see this one here is rack mountable. I don't know why I'm pointing at a screen. That doesn't help you. Yeah, so rack mount. So if you're building like a mobile system and things like that, but you can just have it sitting on a countertop. And yeah, you plug mics into it and you're good to go. If you are doing live streaming, though, I don't recommend something like this. It's usable. You can make it work. But you will have far more control using a mixer. So I like, now I'm not a Mackie dealer, so let's use a Mackie as an example. Something like this. Now, this has some really good features for what you're going to be doing. Number one, compressors. Compressors basically take your high volume stuff and pull them down. There's a lot more going on than that, but that is the easiest way to think about them, which generally for music lets us pull everything up. For spoken word stuff like talking, you can then have all of these, just making sure that if anybody gets really excited, it doesn't blow anybody's eardrums out. Now, there is a USB port on the back for stereo sound, right? So unlike the other unit that has 8 plus additional inputs and stuff, that could record every channel individually. So that's what I was saying. If you are a more podcast style, we're going to record the whole thing and then send it out to the world, that can be a really good option. But if you're live streaming, what you're hearing coming out of this USB is what your audience is hearing. Now, there's a headphone jack on the front, right there, that, yeah, you will hear what your audience is hearing at zero latency. That is the thing about OBS here. Oh, staring into the abyss. The audio on this here is, if I hit monitor and I turn my monitoring on, it starts to have it's going to have a delay on it, and that's unfortunate. So it's really annoying to monitor. Where if I do headphone out on here, get yourself something like these guys. These are like a $20 pair of in-ear monitors, IEMs. These are like their sport version. Set of those for like $20. You can hide these nice and easy. You tuck them behind your ear. Audience doesn't really see them. So whoever is keeping track of the audio, if you're a player, it doesn't look out of place. You don't need every player wearing headphones and stuff. You get yourself a headphone amplifier that has multiple channels. You can have everybody wearing one of these so they can hear how loud or quiet they are. That can be really nice. But something like this, though, right? You get it's just great. Now, again, you have individual channels for everybody, but it reduces it down to stereo, just left and right. So if you want to pan a little bit, you have that option, right? So people who are on one side of the table versus people who are on the other side of the table, you can have this aimed a little bit over, and this guy aimed a little bit more close to the center. This guy's in the center. This guy's to the right. This guy's a little further to the right. You can do that if you want. But yeah, a mixer like this, it is far less expensive. And one of the reasons they're less expensive is because they're not doing that multi-channel audio. The other one, you can record like something like 30-something channels or something like that, depending. I actually have to check. This can do two, left to right. Two at a time. Great. That's what you want. And again, has the built-in compressors. That's another thing we want. Only has 4, only, quote unquote. So, have either somebody who you don't have to worry about as much, or have like the DM as one of the non-compressed channels, or go for a bigger one, right? Because these are also way less expensive, right? There's almost like a $240 difference between this and what we just looked at. And that's just for a general Mackie board. Now, I'm a big fan of Yamaha. So if you are a smaller group, something like this might work, where it just has 4 inputs, but everything else identical, right? We have USB, stereo. Hey. Great. So yeah, if you're doing that, that's how I would do it. Now, one big thing, especially when it comes to the visuals, and I know this is going to be hard for some of you to fathom, people don't mind seeing microphones in the frame. There's been a few live, like I think Search for Grog is a big one, but like a few live shows from Critical Role that actually have better audio mixes than some of their usual streamed shows, because what they have right above, right there, just out of shot, they have shotgun mics going. Now, that is doable. Shotgun mics, I prefer them outdoors than indoors, but yeah, like even a inexpensive shotgun mic, $170 US. Like the Rode ones made to go on your camera, actually more expensive. I'm actually surprised at that. I don't know these brands. Yeah, so yeah, shotgun mics are expensive. This one's a USB shotgun mic. Don't get that. Not for this purpose. But yeah, so you can get those. But what I would highly, highly, highly recommend, if we go microphones, uh, dynamic microphones. So this here in front of me, this is a dynamic microphone. Now the most famous dynamic microphone ever used is probably the Shure SM58, $100 each. Hey, that's a little easier to pill to swallow. Put one of these in front of each of your players and it will sound good. Perfect, because these are designed for these type of purposes. Now, SM7B, these are a broadcast quality mic. I do have one of those at work that I use for some of my YouTube stuff, but you don't need $400 mics in front of everybody. These also, dynamic mics like this, you really need really, really close to the speaker. The further away I go, the closer I go. If I go off to the side, like that kind of thing, you need them aimed up. And the SM7 is very, very good at noise rejection. It's used in a lot of radio. So I wouldn't go that route. Now, don't go this cheap. It'll actually probably sound okay. But plastic bodies, that kind of thing. Ooh, no. I want, what are our options here? Again, don't go this cheap, but Samsung makes some really good stuff. Nothing wrong with these Behringer XM8500s. I have quite a few of them. They are cardioid, similar to, I believe this mic in front of me right now is cardioid. What that means is it picks up a little bit from the side to side, but is pretty good at rejecting side noise, right? There's a reason the SM58 is kind of standard, right? If you want to go name brand, yeah, the Shure PGs are fine. I'm not a fan of anything with an on-off switch, personally. They just have a bad habit of getting turned off, and then people can't figure out why they're not making any sound. Some of these 3-packs can be really nice. So like this one here, a Samsung for $50. Now again, I am a Samsung dealer, so I'm a bit biased because I know the brand. But 3 mics for $50 or whatever. Now, frequency response, that's a little low, in my opinion. Picker pattern cardioid. My actual recommendation is the CAD D38. Now, this is Canadian dollars. I don't even know if I can I see it in US? Like $66 American for 3. Yeah. These mics, I love these things. Oh, like, yeah, $70 American. All right. I love these microphones. They have a bit taller, for lack of a better way of putting it, of a frequency response. You see, they go up to 18 kilohertz. Like, that's just the high frequency information. On a dynamic microphone like these, which is the type of coil and stuff going on in it, I like them going up to at least 15 kilohertz. Those ones that go up to 12, they might sound a little lacking in the high frequency stuff, but once you start getting up to like 18, yeah, that extra 3000 kilohertz range here isn't going to make a big difference. The big difference here, though, is these are super cardioid, which means instead of having a little bit of side to side, they have like very, very little. They do pick up a little bit from the back, which is a weird trick of physics that I don't feel like explaining right now. But yeah, stuff like these, you have one of these in front of each of your players and it will sound good. You do not need to have shotgun mics hanging from the ceiling and being hidden. You don't need stuff like this, right? You don't need gooseneck mics. Like they were using stuff like this at the latest Critical Role thing, much higher end ones than this. These are nice, but yeah, you just get yourself a 3-pack. Like I said, I really like these CAD ones. Nothing wrong with the Behringer ones. They're basically SM58 clone-ish, except they're hotter output, so you don't need to crank your preamps as much. So some people actually prefer these, depending on the use case. I did a video comparing actually the XM8500 to my SM7B, and with a little bit of tweaking, they can sound almost identical. Now, again, it takes extra work to tweak it. It takes extra effort, and it's to get almost there. And that doesn't include types of rejection. That doesn't include some of the extra benefits of different. I don't really want to get into that. But yeah, put a mic similar to this. I said these are my preference. On the table in front of everybody. Don't get a stand like this. I think these, as you can hear, these tend to make a little bit of noise. They're not bad by any means. This is a boom. Yeah, like this is a CAD one. They're like half the price of this, but these excuse me. The Zoom one at twice the price is like a better unit than what I've got in front of me. These will make a lot less noise, but my stands. They've got the kick drum ones. This is probably all you actually need. And look, they sell them in 3-packs for $45, right? You get a pile of these, some of those other mics, you're set. Plug these into a mixer, your audio is going to be miles above a lot of what else is out there. Because again, for live broadcast, just go mixer. That's all you need. If you are doing podcast style, I'm going to record everything and then send it out afterwards. You can go audio interface. There are some cool in-between stuff. There's the podcast. Oh, and I honorable mention, the Rode Pod mics are actually really sweet, right? I do still love the SM7. I haven't tried the SM7DB, which adds extra gain. Because again, that's another thing with the SM7. It needs a lot of mic preamp. So if you're using a cheap mixer, you're gonna notice actually more noise. So they've added an extra like booster basically to the newer version of it. Useless to me, very useful for streamers and stuff. But the pod mics, I've seen entire podcasts using these where you wouldn't know that they were using $100 mics. So those would actually probably be, if you're gonna not go inexpensive, right? Like if you're not going these, $60, $70 for a 3-pack, and you're thinking about spending $100 a mic, those pod mics are actually, I'd say, worth it in that regard. Now, podcasting mixers are really cool, but they're really expensive. Like the really good ones. Yeah, like a Yamaha here, 8 channels, 630. This Yamaha 630. We've got the Boss one here. The Rode. Like this thing here only has 2 microphone preamps. It's another thing to keep in mind. If you're looking at mixers, you'll see 14-channel mixer, which it is 14-channel, but it'll have like 4 of them being a microphone input, and then it'll have other inputs for like instruments and stuff like that. Don't worry about those. Get something that has the microphone inputs that you need. This new Mackie is supposed to be awesome. I've heard a lot of live streamers who are pro live streamers, like making money, that they've gone for this DLZ here, or DLZ, or whatever you want to pronounce it, and they say this thing is awesome. Only 4 mic inputs though. $800. The advantage is you get, touchscreen and pad mode stuff and all that. You don't need that. You are having a bunch of people talking. Yeah, like you need probably 5 inputs, right? If you got 4 players and a DM. If you have more than that, then you need more. But yeah, a lot of these, like this here, podcasting console. I'm willing to guess 4. Yeah, 4 mic inputs. So you're paying extra for the extra versatility that a professional podcast probably wants. But if you're just live streaming your game out there, get yourself a mixer. Preferably a mixer with those compressors on it, EQ to taste, right? I can almost guarantee you though, if you get yourself a $200 or $300 USB mixer, I think that was under live on this site. Some have them under live, some have them under recording. Analog mixers. We go. Where's the? Oh, it'll be order. Low to high. Everybody loves it when you do that, right? That's how. So we need at least 4 inputs, ideally 5, with a USB. That one doesn't have USB. Doesn't have USB. No USB. Now we want USB because it's just easier. There are ways to like jerry rig stuff in. Oh, the price dropped on these. I personally, this is one that I use. I have a review out there for it. Get one of these. Only 2 compressors. Put your noisiest and or most dynamic people there. Under $200. Plug 4 microphones into it. USB it out to your computer, and you will have better sound than like the first like season and a half of Critical Role had. Guaranteed, because if you keep your microphones in a good placement where, oh no, people can see them. We're used to it. Twitch streamers do this all the time, right? I know a lot of YouTube guys that they hide their microphones and it reduces the audio quality, but can make things more visually appealing in some ways. I personally own this mixer. Again, I'm a Samson dealer, so I'm biased. That's one of the reasons I got it, was because I could, get it at my cost. But I've been very happy with it. I used it for quite a while doing videos on my other channel. Still would. Still might. I'm trying to figure out some stuff for faster production on that side of things. But yeah, if you are after some good quality audio for your D&D live streams, or even your D&D videos, right? Say you're like me and you do some live streaming like this, and then you do some live streaming with your friends, doing D&D shows and stuff. A mixer like this with a dynamic microphone in front of you on a stand will get you like 95% of the way there in terms of audio quality, keeping up with some of the best in the business for YouTube videos. Except oh no, the mic's in shot. Well, unlike mine, where it's all beat to crap, right, you can see this one has seen many, many alive use days. It's got like it's not even its serial number. I don't even know what this number is that's carved into the metal from one of the previous owners. So I got this mic for $40 used. It's actually like a $200 microphone, but it's what I had handy. And I got it for, $40. So I threw it on here, and I think it has made my channel sound pretty darn good. Should I be using a mixer like the one I was showing you? Probably, actually. That likely will end up here at my house to be used for live streaming if I do this more. But right now, it's at work because I use it for open mic nights and karaoke parties and things like that. Your mileage may vary. But I digress. So, long story long, I guess, or to sum everything up, have your mics in frame. It'll sound better. Go for dynamic microphones. There's another type called condensers. A lot of streamers like using them, but they'll use them for one streamer at a time. Dynamic mics work better when there's a lot of people because they tend to have better side-to-side rejection, and they tend to be less sensitive. So I'm in an untreated room here. I do a lot of recording at work in a treated room. Don't get studio foam. Just stop it. Just put curtains up or something. It does almost as good of a job. Studio foam is really expensive ways to, or well, really cheap way to not do a lot, or really expensive way to do a little bit. Right? Good studio foam can sound really good. But honestly, the cheap stuff that you get on Amazon for like a couple bucks per square, and it comes all condensed and like expands. The stuff that I have in the studio comes in really large boxes and comes sized already. It doesn't have to expand out like a sponge and stuff. Like the stuff we use in actual recording studios is very different. And even then, I don't even recommend that stuff generally. Either make yourself some acoustic panels or just hang up some blankets. Blankets are enough. Blankets and or curtains and stuff like fabric being hung on like a curtain rod is going to do a lot for the sound bouncing around your room. But dynamic mics like this one are going to generally ignore the room noise a bit more than something like a condenser mic would. Have them in frame, have them aimed right at your subject, and then if you're live streaming, I recommend a mixer, specifically, especially seeing that it is on sale. I personally own this exact model. I have a review for it on my other channel. So yeah, if you go and you look up this videos. Oh, am I not on this yet? Oh, that's too bad. But yeah, I did a video review of this specific one. That if you track it down, you can find it. And yeah, in Canada, for some reason, they like skyrocket in price. I don't know why ours are like they're so much more expensive here. They didn't used to be. They'll probably drop again. I mean, our dollar sucks right now. But they've changed a few times. They make a better version as well. That isn't that much more. I should really like this mixer, but it doesn't have USB, and mine self-destructed. This is an aside. Oh, I also bonus meme, I guess. The Shure SM10 auto mixer or SM410. I'm about to put a video up on it on my main channel, like my audio channel. I found 4 of those for $50 each. Automatic gaining, automatic gain adjustment, IntelliMix stuff, feedback reduction for live use. Oh boy, do I ever recommend those if you can find them for cheap, because you can, because they tend to pop up on eBay all the time for way less than they should. That just reminded me of that. Get rid of that. I want Samsung, which I inevitably call Samsung every time. Yeah, so they've got this one. I wish this was the one I bought, because for music purposes, this is a better unit. But again, $300, not too bad. Get something like this. You won't regret it. Do this with a set of dynamic microphones. You're laughing. Like I said, you will have better audio than like 90% of the D&D channels out there, especially if they're like hanging a mic in the middle and you're just kind of hearing everybody talk. Individual mic for each person, dynamic microphones. It's okay to cheap out on the microphones a bit, but don't go ridiculously low, right? There's nothing wrong with like a $30 dynamic microphone. $100 microphones are going to sound better. They just generally will, but it's not as big of a difference as something other. Just I know I'm rambling now, but this is stuff I know and love a lot. Uh, Condenser microphones are awesome, but inexpensive condenser microphones tend to have a little bump in the frequencies on the higher frequency side of things that makes them sound really, really good in isolation. So you hear one on its own, you're like, man, that sounds really nice. But then you stack another one on top of it, another one on top of it, another one on top of it. So if you're using that same mic in every spot that has that same frequency bump, it starts to sound super, super harsh as things get louder because you have every instrument or every speaker in this case is getting a little bit of a little too much in a very specific spot on the frequency chart. And it starts to get really, really taxing on your listeners' ears. So dynamic microphones, they're the way to go. Just have them in frame. You can go lav mics like the clip-ons. I know Dimension 20 does that. If you know what you're doing and you spend a lot on some good ones, sweet. I tried using some cheap ones recently, and I did not like it. It should have been fine. Maybe I had them in the wrong spot, but I did not like it. So, dynamic microphones, USB mixer, or USB interface if you're pre-recording and then editing. But that's a whole other video. Hopefully this helped. It was a bit of a ramble, but that's what these live streams are about. Check out Max SPL videos here on YouTube for more pre-thought out, less stream of thought things on this, because I'm going to do a video in the near future on upping your streaming audio sound. Talk to you later. Which, yeah, I'm done streaming for the day. Hopefully this stuff was enjoyable for some. And yeah, I'll be back at some point. I'm going to focus a bit more on my main channel this coming week, which is why I wanted to sneak this one in. Because I've got far more subscribers on that one. And actually have some momentum, a lot of comments and stuff recently. So I just want to keep that going.